go again?
Oh, no, not again.
You've seen it before, haven't you?
Dom, how long have we been doing this?
Once more unto the breach, dear friends.
Again and again and again until we're both dead.
Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews and connections of mine. Death on the Nile has finally been released in theaters. It was delayed several times from 2020 due to the pandemic. It is once again directed by Kenneth Branagh and also stars him as the detective Hercule Poirot. And this is once again an adaptation of the Agatha Christie novel and focuses on a honeymoon excursion with the happy couple and friends going down the Nile and seeing the sights in 1930s Egypt. When a murder befalls the group, it is up to the legendary detective to find out who done it before anyone else falls prey to the murderer. Now, this video review will contain spoilers of Death on the Nile. I'll keep my thoughts spoiler-free until I give my letter grade, then I'll get into full spoilers. But just so you know, there will be full spoilers later on in this review. But first off, let's get into some spoiler-free thoughts on Death on the Nile. Is it a good movie overall? Is it a good adaptation of the novel? Is it a worthy successor to 2017's Murder on the Orient Express? I would say this is actually a pretty decent murder mystery. I enjoyed the previous Murder on the Orient Express from the same people who did Death on the Nile here. The only difference between this movie and that one is with Murder on the Orient Express, I had the ending spoiled for me by another analysis video, so I was going into it knowing what was going to happen, but more focusing on, the set dressing and, the performances themselves and how they were going to resolve everything. And I think they did a really good job with that. This one, I didn't know exactly how things were going to run out. I didn't know anything about the novel. I never read the novel. I don't know if there were any other cinematic adaptations of this novel. So I was going in really fresh. And once again, I was impressed by the set design and the cinematography on display here. For the most part, there's some, I feel like there's a lot of instances where, Poirot's interrogating a suspect or giving some dialogue, and, you have the orbiting shot going around and around. At one point, you have him interrogating a suspect and, literally walking around him in a circle with the camera following him. There's a lot of that in this movie, and that can get a little tiresome and ridiculous. But really, that was the only kind of shots that kind of got on my nerves in this movie. It looks beautiful, and also the performances as well. You come to this kind of movie for the performances, and everyone's doing a really good job. I don't really think anyone is really, hamming it up or anything. I think, typical of an Agatha Christie novel. Everyone's doing their best to be as suspicious as possible to try to obscure what the mystery is and so that the whodunit by the end is a genuine shock. But other than that, I think everyone did a really good job with their performances. There are a couple moments in here that, they probably worked better as literary choices in the novel, because when they're translated to the screen, I'm sure that's how it was. These things were how they were described in the book, but they do look a little goofy. One scene in particular, when they decide to, right before they get onto the Karnak, which is the riverboat that takes them down the Nile, I was like, "What is this?" But I'd say those instances are few and far between. Overall, I would say this is a very enjoyable set piece, and really. You go into this knowing it's an ensemble piece and going for the performances, because really ensemble movies like this with a lot of big names and some lesser known names, I think, as far as I know, you don't get these kind of movies really that often anymore, if at all. I would say this you can harken back to, before Murder on the Orient Express. I can't remember the last time we had a big ensemble kind of movie like this. And then again, I haven't seen all the movies, of course, but I feel like this kind of big budget ensemble movie doesn't happen very often. And when it does, I think it should be supported. I think this is the kind of movie that we should be getting more of. And I think that this is, this was actually a decent time. However, I will say though, the mystery, maybe it's just me, but I was actively trying to figure out the mystery as it was going on, knowing the general setup. It's like someone's gonna get murdered. Well, who done it? There is at one point in this movie early on where Tom Bateman plays Poirot's friend Book, and they're at this reception party in with all the people who are going to be on the boat in a hotel on the Nile, and it basically is just all right, stop. Let me read you the playbill and see who are these characters and what are the relationships to these people. That one was kind of a ridiculous moment as far as all right, we have to get this out of the way. That could have been worked a little more organically, maybe. But then again, it's sort of a get this out of the way quick and move on sort of thing. And like I said, some of these things, they probably would have worked a little better if they were in the novel. Maybe in the novel they were introduced a little more organically. And in this one, they kind of felt like, all right, we got to just introduce these people really quick. Just, all right, we know the stakes, go, And I think that can work. How well it works depends on the person, I think. I think it worked well enough for me. But like I said, going into this, I knew the general setup of, there's someone's going to get murdered. Who done it? And, you can kind of guess who's going to get murdered based on, who's in the who's in the trailer and which scenes. And knowing that, you can kind of guess. It's like, all right, who are these? What's the setup? And I could pretty much guarantee the first guess that you have as far as like what the setup is correct. I had a couple other theories like, that seems a little too obvious. Maybe they're going to be a little more subtle. It's like, oh no, it was the obvious route. So, as far as the mystery goes, again, your mileage will vary on your enjoyment on that front. But overall, I would say this is an enjoyable film. Not everyone's going to buy into this sort of thing. I had a good time with this. So if I was going to give Death on the Nile a letter grade, I would say this is a A-. There's definitely some things that could have been improved, but overall, definitely enjoyable. But again, your mileage will vary. If you're not buying into a classic murder mystery whodunit sort of thing, this isn't the movie for you. So that being said, let's get into some spoiler talk on this movie. This is where I give my spoiler thoughts as well as some analysis as to certain plot developments and character arcs that may seem familiar to you and where you may have seen them before. First off, like I said, this is kind of harkening back to good old ensemble movies that we used to get, in the 50s and 60s, like, even like biblical epics, like all-star westerns sort of things. Like I said, these kind of ensemble movies don't happen anymore. And the fact that, we're in a period piece is probably what helps lend credence to that, that sort of thing. But really, some of the things, I really don't have a lot more analysis to talk about here, just because the great Agatha Christie in her time, she was one of the greatest, mystery writers of really the 20th century and probably beyond. And you can tell that like a lot of the tropes that you see here, you can point to other things, but really those kind of tropes started with people like her, people like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, that sort of thing. So it would be really hard for me to point to something that's like, oh, you've seen it in this before, because there's so many examples of that. I know that's kind of a cop-out as far as analysis goes, but really that's kind of what where I wanted to end this, just because it's like, yes, this is a kind of, like, the story itself is like a trendsetter in that these sorts of books were being, these tropes were being written, a century ago, basically. I believe this was written, almost, 80, 90 years ago at this point. And these tropes are still alive today. I will say I was kind of surprised that when it started in World War I, and like that was an interesting setup. Although part of me wonders if, if Poirot got disfigured like that and got skin grafts, like, oh, how am I going to hide this? Like, oh, simple, you're going to grow a mustache. It's like, oh, that's why he has that ridiculous mustache. Like, again, not being a medical, and not knowing all the medicine here, but would you, I'm assuming you'd have to have some sort of skin graft or something like that to cover that up, and that wouldn't heal properly. But then, how would you grow the mustache? I don't know. I won't delve into the details of that. That just seems, odd. It didn't necessarily need to be in the movie. It was interesting to see, but really, that didn't need to be there. Like I said, that probably was in the novel at some point, but yeah, that's really all I had. That was really one of the alright moments. And really, like I said, the one goofy moment that I thought was, when Gal Gadot's on the, the dressed up in like the Cleopatra like headdress sort of thing, and she's on like this big stand. Looks like she's in like a huge dress, and it's like, all right. That was that one moment where I thought that was just a little goofy. But really, those are all my thoughts on that I had on Death on the Nile. I really enjoyed it. What did you think of Death on the Nile? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did I miss something in my analysis? Give me some good examples of where you've seen these tropes before, and I can probably point to a Agatha Christie novel or murder mystery novel from the turn of the century that trope came from. Let me know in the comments down below. And again, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. Be sure to look for my most recent TV reviews, which are for the Book of Boba Fett and the first part of Season 1 of Star Trek Prodigy, as well as my next movie review, which I believe right now the next movie review I'm scheduled to do is for The Batman, which comes out March 4th. So be sure to look for all of those. And if you liked this video or any other video on my channel, please give me a like, share, and especially subscribe. I'd very much appreciate it. Again, thank you so much for watching. But just remember, there is nothing new under the sun. And yes, you have seen it before.